I enjoy doing Jasper, but I don't like him. But I enjoy it because I don't like him. However, Lucine I like and I kind of care for. And she gets in the second book, she gets into a relationship with someone who I know is bad for her. And I'm just wanting her to ditch the bum. You know? Was that written in there to make people feel that way?
I was hoping, and I was trying not to, and that was intentional. I was, you think about the nuances of relationships, and when you read or you see something on TV that's a fictional account of the good guy versus the bad guy is always completely obvious. Smacks the woman around, says nasty things, like does all these awful, he's the bad guy. And I'm like, but in life, the bad guy sometimes really comes across as the good guy. And might be the good guy in work, but maybe in personal situations, he's a real jerk. So I was trying to make him, and hopefully that it got across that this is a weird manipulation and it's dysfunctional, but it doesn't on the surface appear that way to most people.
And it certainly didn't appear that way to her. And I always wanted to tell her this guy. So they really are, the characters in it are very, very real, even though most of them are aliens.
Yeah.
But, it really is good. And on this one, we produced it in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that and how that experience was for you?
Yeah. So, and I'm looking forward, and I know it can be an editing nightmare putting the voices together. And
that's
and
my issue. That's not yours.
But
the finished result is it worked much better.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. It would be interesting if it weren't a pandemic and we were sitting side by side. I'd be curious to know how the characters.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, in the first book, I narrated the whole thing and so did all the characters. But in the second book, well, you suggested it, and I went, yeah, great idea, is all of the female characters are narrated by Danielle Palli.
Yeah. Actually, you suggested it. I just jumped on it. You did. In the first interview, you said, Cindy had said that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
She was talking about, why would I hire somebody to do the audiobook? Because I do voiceover work, and she really likes because I do a lot of guided meditation. She's like, you have such a nice voice. And at the time, with all the other stuff I was doing, I didn't have time. And I really liked your voice, your audition. And so you had said at that moment, he's like, well, why don't you write a book where you can do some of the characters and I'll do the male voice and you do the female. The problem is you said that as like a throwaway comment, and I just latched onto it. I was like, yes, let's do that. And you were nice enough to do it. So the thing that was interesting is the fact that you're recording your sections in the UK and I'm recording it in America. We're not in the same room like we're doing a cartoon, which makes it so I'd have to kind of hear what you're saying in my head and then how I would respond. And so I think it came out really good. The thing that I learned is the characters in my head were very diverse, but when they came out of my mouth, all from me, they all sounded like me. And it was
Lucine did, but no, Odessa didn't. And
that was the final product. But when I first started reading it, it was kind of like the character development. They're too boring. I'm like, there's not enough diversity. So I actually went online and I started playing. I went for a long walk and I'm like, well, how can I make my voice sound different? So I'm like dropping in my throat, kind of talking nasally. I'm practicing how I pronounce things and the pitch and the pacing and things. And I'm like, well, what else could I do? So I, got back home and I looked online and I started researching. And if I heard an accent that I liked, and I was like, that sounds kind of like Isabella. Now, I never wanted, because I'm not an expert at accents by any means, so I never wanted to claim, and it's not on Earth, so who cares? I never wanted to claim, okay, this is German, this is, Caribbean, this is French. I just wanted them to sound unique so that when you heard the book, you knew who was talking. And so I would have to practice one for about 10 minutes, and then I go read the part. Had we had all the time in the world, I probably would have done one character at a time and gone through the entire book as just that character and then gone on to that, because you get on a roll.
Yeah.
And then when you get the characters that have, there was one one scene where there's 3 women talking to each other. I'm like, oh my God, why did I write it this way? So, yes.